am Lequita Brooks, your social impact speaker and strategist. Welcome to Social Impact Sundays at 6 p.m., where we have massive social impact that leads to income. And today we have Novena. And let me tell you, right, the thing I love about Novena is that a lot of times social workers, including myself, we run away from doing case management. We run away from Department of Children and Families or working in child welfare or foster care and things of that nature, because I guess I would just say in my situation, I couldn't afford to work in those environments just because I was a mom that's single. So a lot of times we know that it's needed, and it's probably one of the best opportunities ever in the social work profession. But a lot of times we just don't go that direction just because of the work environment and income. So we have Novena. She has been in the profession for over 20 years. She's a licensed clinical social worker and mental health therapist, where she has been able to do so much in just through the span of her career. So you know what? Welcome, Novena.
Thank you, Lequita. Thank you so much. I've never thought of it that way. I've been so busy in it, and once you get pulled into it, it's hard to get out because it's work that comes from the heart as well as income and everything else. But it's not for the faint of heart. It's a commitment. Yes. Thank you for that introduction.
You're welcome. And with you saying that, tell me about your experience from working in child welfare, and then now with you having a business and being an entrepreneur and life coach and mental health therapist and licensed clinical social worker and all the other things that I haven't mentioned. So tell me more about that.
So yes, thank you, Lequita. So I just started out in the front lines. I started out as a caseworker. I was looking for a job. I was a parent too, and I definitely had to have conversations with my family and my support systems and say, hey, I'm taking on this new position, and I need your support with helping me care for my child as well as get this work done. And so I went in there a little naive, but also with the idea that I was going to make a change. I think like everybody else, well, most people, not everyone, most people, I wanted to make a difference, right, in my career. And very quickly, I learned that you're doing good work, but you're not going to make impact and change at the level of a frontline worker. You are making some minor changes. And so I went back to school. 4 years later, got a master's degree. And from that point on, the field has been good to me. I've seen exponential growth. I've had multiple mentors and people who really got behind me and said, go further, go further, go further. And one day I just sat down and said, you know what? I can get more impact if I did some of this on my own from a personal, like opening up my own business type of way. And I can do things in a way that I see more fitting. And when you work in large government, when you work in child welfare, there's a lot of bureaucracy, there's a lot of red tape, as you and many other people understand this. And so I didn't want as much as that red tape anymore. And a lot of times doing the work privately is healing for some of the things that you have to encounter in the public. And so I created a balance for myself in doing that and making sure I was still in touch with people, the one-to-one, the engagement, understanding what's happening in the community, keeping my ears to the ground, because you can get so caught up in this work that you got your head down, but you're not paying attention or you're not present in terms of what's happening. And so that's what happened in the short. That's the short story. But yeah, pretty much it grew on me, and I learned that I can make more impact if I went and did something more in terms of my own business within my community. So I feel good about that. And thank you for mentioning that.
Yes, and it sounds like some of the key things that you did were you attained your Master of Social Work degree. You
Yes.
also had mentors along the way. And then you also had a vision, like you love the work, but you could see how sometimes working within the system, it has its benefits, but then there are also some challenges. And from that, you were like, you know what? I desire to have more social impact. I desire to make more money, to do the things I desire to do, to support the people and causes I believe in. So you ventured into entrepreneurship. So tell us more about your business and what you're doing now.
Absolutely. So the name of my business is Embryo Coaching, and it's a very small mental health practice. At this practice, we provide individual counseling. We work pretty much with children and families because that's my background, but it has expanded because the need has been lifted up so much. And so we find ourselves working with women in career, coaching them, women, mothers, wives, husbands, you name it. People come because I started out where I'm located, there are not a lot of Black and brown social workers or therapists available. So when people found out, oh, there's a therapist in this community, they were knocking at my door like, you are so needed. And Lequita, I can't tell you, that felt so affirming. But the more I got into it, the more I realized, wow, this is a need that's bigger than what I even imagined. And so what I do now is I encourage students. I'd like to encourage students who are looking towards going into this practice. And I also offer them an opportunity to do some of their field work with me, and I mentor them as well. So we are a mental health practice we provide mental health therapy to children, families, individuals, and couples. We also offer students opportunities to learn and grow here. We offer training, anger management, and we also offer substance abuse counseling as well. Um, my goal is to expand that even further out and provide educational resources to people who are looking to learn more about mental health and how they could either get in the field and help others out or even just use it for themselves in their personal lives. So yes, that's what I'd like. That's where we are, and that's where I would like to go.
Yeah, and I want to say you're based in New York.
Yes, Nassau County, New York. And however, I have mental health therapists who work with me in out all of the other boroughs. So we also cover Queens, Brooklyn, and Manhattan and the Bronx. Yes.
All right. So mainly services, and is it in person and virtual?
Both. We offer in-person and virtual. Most people since the pandemic have kind of leaned towards a virtual experience, which is completely fine. We do virtual, we work in multiple different platforms, and we also can do in-person as well.
Okay. So it also sounds like you can cover technically the whole state of New York since you all do offer virtual services.
Yes, we can. Yes, we can. Yes.
And I know one of the things during our time that we were talking with this expansion, you have this big vision of working more with Black and Brown individuals on healing and
Yes.
trauma and all those things. So tell us more about that aspect of it. Like, we know where you're at today, where you were in the past, and now what's that future for you?
Yeah. So what I have to say about that is it's not just what I want. I believe this is what the people want. This is what I'm hearing when I put my ear to the ground. When during the pandemic, I can't tell you how many calls came in for people, Black and brown, particularly men of color, who said, I need help. And that was so powerful to me. And that point I realized how important it was to be available and to create a space for everyone who felt like this is important to me. And from that, we were able to hire male therapists. We were able to meet some of those needs, but what it just created more of a demand for more help. And so it's what the people need, is what the people are saying, is what the people want in New York City, and we want to be able to respond to that. And the idea at this point is to use technology to create a further reach. And so we know that, individual is wonderful and great, but when we can collectively do things, it becomes more powerful. And my vision is to do more of a collective work with people through technology and partnerships with other organizations to make sure that we are getting information, education, support, mental health treatment to everyone who needs it, particularly for men and women, Black and brown culture.
Oh my goodness, it's like a chill went through my body. Like, basically, you're like, hey, this is what the people desire. And because
Yes.
social workers, just like you, have that mindset of being very solution focused. And you're
Yes.
like, you know what, I'm going to bridge this gap. And it's not necessarily me bridging the gap. I'm not just doing it for myself. No, this is what the people have said they desire. And I'm
Yes.
also bringing in other members from the community to bring this to fruition. And with you saying that, in our profession, we have some of these notions that we are just dismantling. And that's part of why we started the social work movement. So, what are some of those things that we are just going to dismantle today?
Well, anytime I interact with someone who isn't really familiar with social work, and any of those conversations, like, so what do you do? And usually if I say social worker, the automatic thought process is, especially if I let them know I worked in child welfare, is that I take people's children away from them, or I am the mean person in the community that's coming to create problems for families. And that's just not the case. I think a lot of people, maybe they look on TV and they see a social worker and they have it in a box. They see a social worker as somebody who sits behind a desk and might be doing social services, so to speak. This work allows us to be weaved into almost every aspect of a person's life in so many different ways, in so many different capacities. There's treatment, there's legal social work, there's medical social work, there's mental health social work, there's administration. I happen to be on both sides of it, the admin, the corporate, as well as the mental health one-to-one. And I've had a whole host of experiences in this work, which makes it beautiful because it is so diverse, and it offers so many opportunities for people who are thinking about getting into this work. Definitely, this is the place to be. This is the way to go with your career. And you will never be bored. And it allows you to do so many different types of things. And so, yeah, the idea that a social worker is a stressed out person who just takes on a lot of work around social services is not a clear picture of the work that we do. We are making impact in people's lives all over the place, from mindset shifting to helping people develop educationally, spiritually, emotionally. We are shifting narratives in people's lives, helping people go back to their families and engage in a different way, go back to work and engage with their colleagues in a different way, to see themselves in the mirror in a different way. The work is powerful. And I think that voice needs to be raised up and heard throughout the entire world.
So basically, a holistic standpoint. We don't just look at your emotional or mental. We're looking at all domains of wellness, whether it's spiritual, financial, occupational, environmental, emotional, mental, all the things. We're looking at the person.
Yeah, the whole entire person. Yes.
So, what would you like to share with the world? Any advice from your perspective as a licensed clinical social worker and a mental health therapist? What would you like to share?
Wow. Okay. So what I would like to share with the world is, if you have never had a mental health therapist or a counselor in your life, take a moment to have that experience. Most of the time, people wait until something goes wrong in their lives in order to pick up the phone or engage or enroll in a therapeutic experience. The same way you got a medical practitioner who you go to once a year to get your annual physical, the same way you might get in the gym and make sure you're working out to stay healthy, it is just as important to make sure your mental health is good. Right now, the world that we're living in, I can tell you right now, the world is not in a place where we are healthy, and we have to take care of ourselves. We have to make it a practice, a daily practice, a weekly practice, and we have to maintain our mental, spiritual, and emotional well-beings as human beings. Take that step to get a therapist in your life.
That was a word, Novena. And how can people reach you?
Well, you can reach me at www.embryo.com, or they can call me at the main number, which is 516-368-9116, embryo.com.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Novena. It's been an honor learning about you, your experience. I am Lequita Brooks, your social impact speaker and strategist. If you're interested in booking me for a speaking engagement, go to booklequita.com. Until next time, you can have massive income that leads to impact.